Hey, what's going on, guys? Roaring Turkey here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a fun casual deck to showcase today. We're playing Elementalist. We're building around Wayfaring Pilgrim, and I call the deck Elementalist Pilgrim. I am very creative. Elementalist has tap, player draw a site, and she gives you an additional elemental attunement for each element. So the nice thing there is you get to play one attunement spells without needing the attunement at all. And as a result, you get to play a lot of colorless sites that have really good abilities, but are sometimes hard to slot into other atlases. We're playing around the Pilgrim so this is actually like my first deck that I ever built in Sorcery. And I love the Pilgrim because his ability is so unique to Sorcery. Like, it's something that other games can't replicate because it really depends on having the grid and like movement being part of the game. So he's a 2-mana, 1-power minion who, when he enters each corner of the realm, you get to draw a card. So over time, he's a 2-mana, 1-power minion that like draws you 4 cards, and that's incredible value. But it takes so long to like get to every single corner. The deck is trying to speed him up, and the key to it is Phantom Steed, who, yeah, in the last couple of videos I showed the shenanigans you can get into with Ghost Ship. We're doing more shenanigans with Phantom Steed today with the Pilgrim, because we're going to pick up the Pilgrim, give him Void Walk and the movement +2, and get him traveling a lot faster. The great thing about the Steed having Void Walk is it means you don't have to play corners, which is one of the many things why the Pilgrim is kind of bad on his own, is like you have to play corners and like get all the way over there, and it kind of just becomes like not worth it. Phantom Steed is just going to shoot him straight into the void, and like you can just start going and play your sites how you normally want to. Another site that is going to help us accelerate the Pilgrim is Astral Alcazar. I'm guessing you've probably never seen this one played before because it doesn't really have a home. Its ability is kind of niche, but it's perfect for what we're doing here. Units can move between this site and any void as if they were adjacent. So ideally, the perfect setup here is you have the Pilgrim and Phantom Steed in your opening hand and the Alcazar. And you're going to play Phantom Steed on 3 in the void. And then on turn 4, you play Astral Alcazar underneath your Phantom Steed, and then play the Pilgrim. He's going to be summoning sick, but the Phantom Steed isn't, and he's going to pick up the Pilgrim, and then you can hit 2 corners that turn with the Pilgrim on an Astral Alcazar, because you can just move to a void corner, move back to the Alcazar, and then end on another void corner. And it's especially great if you can actually place the Alcazar on a corner, because then that's just like one corner that you're spawning the Pilgrim in, and he just hit 3 corners that turn. You only have, like, next turn he's going to complete his journey, and at that point you can like use him as like a chump blocker or whatever. I do have one Fey Changeling in here as a, like, you can maybe try to bounce the Pilgrim and like get the value again, but it's also just good to bounce one of your opponent's things. The rest of the deck is kind of dirtily. So if you can tell by the strategy, a lot of our minions are not really participating in combat. Like Steed and Pilgrim are like going off on their little side journey here. So we got 2 Mordric Druids. These guys are spellcasters, which will matter, but they make your opponent think twice about attacking your sites because they will take that much damage too. So the Druids are just good there to stall. For Apprentice Wizards, I will chump block with these guys because they just kind of cycle themselves, and I'm really looking for my Pilgrims. I covered the Changeling, the Steeds. We have 1 Tragedy Worrywart because we're running 3 Call to Wars for consistency in getting the Pilgrims. If this deck is not able to get going, it kind of falls apart. So you really want to find your Pilgrims, find your Phantom Steed. That's also why we have 1 Assorted Animals in order to tutor up the Phantom Steed. But sometimes if you naturally draw a Pilgrim, it means your 3rd Call to War is going to be a dead card. So I have like 1 other Exceptional Mortal in here, just the Worrywart. And he's like not great. He's kind of just there so that your like last Call to War isn't dead in your hand. But he's like, okay, you know, his ability is going to stop lightning bolts or fire bolts and other kinds of magic spells from dealing damage to you and your units. And also, like, if you're on Death's Door, it's like you get to play a little safer, or you get to feel a little bit more safe. We have one Ruler of Thule because his ability is very helpful for the Pilgrim. If you maybe don't have the Alcazar, Ruler of Thule is another way to accelerate the Pilgrim hitting corners. And the Dapper Vampires, these guys a lot of times are just going to get buried and like you're never going to get to untap with them. But they're here, so we have the Vampires and 3 Poison Novas. And these cards are like our 5 drops that are here to stabilize the mid game. We intend to like fall behind early, do things with our Pilgrims and Steeds, but these cards are gonna like kind of just stabilize for us. Same with Atlantean Fate, just a one of there. But that's why the Mordric Druids are important, having the spellcaster ability so that you can cast Poison Nova with them. Same with the Apprentice Wizards. And it's another reason why the Worrywart was my pick for the Exceptional Mortal. Shield Maidens would also do the same thing, to be honest, though, and like maybe she's actually better. But the Worrywart will make sure that Poison Nova is not killing your own units. In the magics, I covered Assorted Animals. We've got 2 blinks for mobility, 3 common sense because Elementalist does not have a draw ability, so I like to be have a bit more common senses than just 2 in normal decks. And then we got the toolbox spells for it, so 1 Dispel, 3 Lightning Bolts, and 2 Berries. You can also tutor up a wizard, I suppose, if you really want to. But Lightning Bolt is really important, and it's another reason why I'm heavy on the common sense. I want to make sure we have these, because the end, like how this deck wins games is through Crater Eyes. We're going to draw a bunch of cards with our Pilgrim Steed combo, and we're going to play Sights. We're going to get to 8 mana, and we're going to drop a Crater Eyes on the opponent's head. So we need to put them to 10 in order for Crater Eyes to put them to door, and then Lightning Bolt will just end the game. In order to put them through 10, Ruler of Thule can help with a lot of our Dirtlers on the back row. They can kind of swing in for damage. A lot of times when the Phantom Steed Pilgrim is done doing their thing, I just kind of have them swing in together for 3 damage. And the Mordric Druids being able to not necessarily deflect damage, but just like deal the damage back to them is another way that we're kind of just trying to put them to 10 or less so that Crater Eyes is an easy door and Lightning Bolt is an easy game. Going over the sights, I covered the Alcazar. We have a lot of defensive sights that we want to be playing on our front row because, again, we're not set up for combat, really. So we're relying on our sights to, like, shield us. We have the 2 Bottomless Pit, 3 Free Cities, 3 Gnome Hollows, and 1 Great Wall. So that's 9 sights total that are purely defensive, and we want to put these on our front row and make it difficult for our opponent to enter our sights and start dealing damage to us. We have a couple like back row sites with the Alcazar, Crossroads to look for the Alcazar, or just any other site that you may need. Maybe sometimes Gnome Hollows is really good if you're looking at a Nimbus Djinn kind of deck. Other times Bottomless Pit is great if you see like a lot of like no airborne kind of minions. You can, if you really want to find Alcazar to get it going, but if you already have one, you might want to just like search for some other site that looks better in this situation. Like Pillar, which can heal you and banish dead minions, and a Tadpole Pool because it's not hard to get the 3 water and the frog tokens are nice. Aside from that, there's not much else to say about the deck. We're just kind of doing some dirtle. We're racing with the Pilgrim, and we are trying to just get our mana up, put the opponent to 10, Crater Eyes for door, Lightning Bolt for game. So I'm gonna find some games, and we're gonna take this deck for a walk and see how it does. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you're seeing and you want to see more, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would mean a lot. Thanks, guys. Alright, so we're going to get in a game number 1 here. We're going off against a Death Speaker player. Doing the rolls. It looks like he got high roll, so he's going to go first. We're going to draw from our spellbook, draw from our atlas. This is my first time playing with the new mulligan rules, so now we can only mulligan 3 cards total. The atlas looks pretty good, even though I don't see an Alcazar. I like the aqueduct because getting 1 additional water and earth is all we need, and we'll mull 1 Gnome Hollows. We're going to keep the stone and just mulligan the common sense and the lightning bolt. And I'm actually going to go back. We'll keep that Gnome Hollows because having more defensive sites is just good. Lets us fill up our front row, and then we'll be safe to just fill in our back row later. So we draw the Druids and Blink. Shouldn't be too much to do with Blink in a Death Speaker matchup. He's going to play a Bedrock and then Philosopher's Stone, so very good start there. We're going to do our best to impersonate that, and we're going to play our own stone alongside the Aqueduct, and then pass to the opponent. He's going for a Ruin, so now we see Air, Fire, and Earth. He also then goes Amethyst Core, so really crazy stuff. He's going to have 4 mana next turn. We play Gnome Hollows right up front. Now, Death Speaker does have a lot of guys who can actually enter Gnome Hollows, so it's not great, but it is something. And I kind of forget that I have the stone here. Otherwise, I would have played the Apprentice Wizard because he would cost 2 mana, but I'm thinking that I need 3 mana. Draw Sight for turn. We see Pillar. That's really good in this matchup, but it's not something we want to play right now. So some mixed feelings about seeing it. And then we do play the Apprentice Wizard, kind of knowing that he can Vile Imp, but I don't really care if he Vile Imps my Wizard. I'd rather he Imp the Wizard than Imp me. But then I do kind of forget that he can cast my Wizards, so it's a bit unfortunate because after Imping it, he just casts my Wizard. And then he plays a Land Surveyor. So really great value there. Now I'm looking at 2 units who can come at me. But thankfully that's where these Mordric Druids are going to come in. Because we can play them on this Aqueduct, safe from any other Imps. And if he tries to attack me, he will take the damage back. So I'm going to tap for a Sight. Again, I don't really want to play the Pillar right now. I'm full health. There's nothing in the cemeteries. We tapped to draw a Sight, and we see a free city. That's a good one. And we're thinking about it. We could cast the Druids for 1. We could also like Ruler of Thule, but that wouldn't be too great. Not yet. So we do that. We play the Druids. And now we're feeling pretty good because if he attacks, he's going to take 3 damage as well. And we have this Poison Nova that we could cast next turn. So I would love for him to attack me, deal 3, and then just like wipe his dudes. And yeah, he's thinking about it too. Does he want to take the damage back? So I get a little carried away with that. He's just moving. He's not actually attacking. That's what he opted to do. So there I go to correct the life total. And he moves forward with the Land Surveyor. And he moves forward with the Imp. So he's at 6 mana, didn't play anything, just moved. And so that's pretty good. We're still at 20. We're feeling good with this Poison Nova. Even though these aren't like high value minions to hit with a Poison Nova. Seeing Call to War is great too because that's a Pilgrim. And then I don't want to lose my Druid, so I drop the stone and have them pick it up so that they can cast Poison Nova. And then they drop the stone and I pick it up. They're having a hard time dropping the stone. And next turn, he will probably cast the Land Surveyor, but we can Pillar and just get rid of the Vile. I think about moving the Druids up, but then I realize that he has a Vile, so I don't do that. And then, yeah, he banishes the Surveyor. He draws a site. He gets to play a Floodplain. And we kind of, at this point, we can kind of see that it's a 4-color Death Speaker deck. And he infiltrates my druids. So I'm pretty happy about that. Infiltrate's a big card. The fact that he spent an infiltrate on those guys as opposed to a bigger creature like my Ruler of Thule or a vampire is awesome. I go for a site this turn because I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do this turn. I want to call to war and grab a Pilgrim. Now, we haven't played any corners yet. But the other consideration is seeing that it's 4-color Death Speaker. I'm putting them on Nimbus Djinn, and I want to get into a Gnome Hollows. And I can blink for 1 mana and be in Dispel range and get rid of his mana over there. And then that would be 1 mana Dispel. I still have 2, and I can call to war and just add the Pilgrim to my hand. So that's what I'm doing. I'm casting the blink, gonna draw a spell. See another call to war. And then I'll tap. Play the pillar and ban. Yeah, now that we're on the Gnome Hollows, we get rid of the Violent, so that's we're not giving him 2 damage. And then we dispel for 1 mana. And then we can call to war, just add a Pilgrim to our hand. We're not gonna be able to cast it. But we don't want to either right now. We can't even like cantrip it right away. We haven't seen a steed. And then give the library a shuffle, show the Pilgrim. And that will... We could play it technically with 1 mana and the stone discount, but... So opponent, tapping for a site, 4 spells in hand. You know, it's Death Speaker, so it's Genesis minions. Yeah, there's an Imp. That's one of the better things that he could have. He moves the druids. And then it's just pass. So, okay. And then we're toying with the druids there. But we're both trying to, like, tap it. We don't need a site this turn. We have a free city. And, hey, there it is. We see the steed. So, we want to play the steed this turn. And we want to play it adjacent to a site so that we can play a site under it next turn. We don't want to play it on a site where it could potentially die. So it's like, where are we going to play the free city this turn? And then where are we going to play a site next turn to determine where we put the steed? So I actually tap for a site, probably looking for an Alcazar. Like, man, I would love to play Alcazar under the steed, but we don't get it, and that's unfortunate. So we just decide we're going to play the steed in a corner, and then we can probably play this free city under it next turn. And then, yeah, we have the mana, so like we just call to war. Grab our second Pilgrim, filter the deck. And that will probably be the turn here. I don't see what else we can do. We're looking at another 2 damage from this Violent. That's fine. This Mondric Druids isn't really doing anything for them. It's, you know, it's a shame that they took it away, but whatever. We got an Infiltrate out of the deal. I'm happy with that. So he attacks with the imp. I take 2 damage. He's going to tap to play another bedrock. He has 7 mana. 7 mana is Summoning Sphere plus Nimbus Djinn. But it's not like that's enough to put me to door. And I'm on the Gnome Hollows, so I'm safe there. I haven't really played a Death Speaker deck, but I'm very familiar with the matchup, so I know a lot about like what's in the deck, and I'm really not afraid of anything. He just passes, and like that's great. So we draw a spell, and there's the Crater Eyes. So it's all coming together. The plan is coming together perfectly. We're gonna play the Free City under the Steed, and then drop the Pilgrim. We're going to get to draw right away for hitting this corner. We see Common Sense. That's good. Like, that's a Lightning Bolt. Or a Berry. We could bury the Imp. And then, yeah, we're going to get the Steed moving. He can hit this corner without the Alcazar. Just the, like, up-down corners. Movement +2 will get you there. So we get to draw 1, and hey, there's the Lightning Bolt that we were talking about. We still have 5 mana, so we Common Sense. We could grab a Berry or just a second Lightning Bolt. We still haven't done damage to the opponent to put them to 10, so maybe Lightning Bolt could help there. Berry could also maybe just, like, I don't know, get rid of this Imp. Or some, I don't like think Death Speaker has a lot of threats that like demand a Berry, so it might just be Lightning Bolt here. We're admiring the art on Assorted Animals. Spooky eyes. Apprentice Wizard, I guess, is a consideration, but having them in this matchup is a little sad because of course he can cast them and he gets the value. So we do just settle for a Lightning Bolt, and then we pass. And what's cool actually with the stone is we don't need 8 mana to play the Crater Eyes, we just need 7. So 1 more land drop and we have all the mana we need. We'll just need a site to discard with the Crater Eyes. So he's going to draw for turn, tap for a site, and then he attacks my Aqueduct for another 2, and then he moves the Druids. I'm totally fine just taking this 2 damage a turn. One of the things that I've been considering is just using Ruler of Thule to kill the Imp, but I couldn't while it was on the Gnome Hollows, and like now I could if I wanted that. He passes, again, like no casts, maybe building up his hand so that Nimbus Djinn can one-shot me, and Violent just getting the chip damage in. So we draw the final site. We will probably play the Bottomless Pit over this Floodplain. Bottomless Pit is gonna do more generally. Floodplain is kind of in this deck as like a Root Spider attack. It's not, I don't care too much about flooding things. So we'll play Bottomless Pit right there. 7 mana, all we need for Crater Eyes. We're not gonna like fire it off right now though. We're gonna wait. We actually cannot hit a corner with the Steed Pilgrim like this. No Alcazar does hurt. We can play the other Pilgrim in our hand on the Free City and just see what we get. But we can also Ruler of Thule and just do damage, because we have the Crater Eyes. So there's the Ruler. We're thinking about where to put it. If we want to attack their back row, let's see, Ruler's 3, Phantom Steed would be 3 and 2, so we're looking at 8 damage with units. So it's about where we play the Ruler of Thule and where we want him to end up. On the Pillar, attacks his back row windmill. On the Free City, attacks his front row windmill. What I decide is I want to attack the front row windmill, because if he manages to survive next turn when I Craterize, I can move him back. And on the free city, he'll be able to survive the Craterize. Whereas if he's on the back row windmill, well, actually, I guess he would just be able to move back to pillar, and he would be safe either way. So maybe there wasn't too much consideration there, but it is an important thing to think about with your units is all the things that could happen in regards to where they are and the consequences of it. So we do that. We end up cantripping with the Pilgrim. We see a Poison Nova. That's like not bad. We can't cast it this turn. Okay, it's a little bad because we know what we want to do next turn. So like we're not playing Poison Nova ever. And especially right now, it would kill our ruler, which we don't like. But we're going to send off this first lightning bolt to put him to 9. And now he's in range of Craterize. Which is perfect. And he plays a Smokestacks, which is a really good sight against us. He's shutting off the Gnome Hollows to my left and the Bottomless Pit. My Gnome Hollows is safe, though. And then he plays a Raytanis Titan, so he manages to kill my Steed and my Pilgrim. That's really good for him. It is far away from, like, the battlefield, though, so Titan does not pose a threat to me right now, and I'm happy to have my ruler alive. He decides to attack in place with the Violent, keeps the Druids up. And now I have to decide what I want to draw for turn. I have no issues discarding this Floodplain, so I think it's going to be a spell. I just need to move this ruler down. And I'm checking the damage grid on Craterize. It will kill the Titan on his left, which is really nice. He's going to get to keep his Imp and the Druids, but that's whatever. Right now, I really can't move my Pilgrim on this free city, though. Vampire is kind of okay. And we will be taking a bit of damage from this Craterize, but I think it's only like 2 from where we are. Not a whole lot. I'm fine with it. Or, well, I'm not that fine with it because I move away. I go to the Aqueduct. And I move ruler down to the free city like I've been saying. Discard the Floodplain. Send the Craterize. We put him to door. We kill the Titan. Nothing else dies. And we're looking good because we have this Lightning Bolt in hand. So, like, on our next turn, it should be game. We'll see if opponent plays around a Lightning Bolt. He has seen one already, so he knows that, like, we run it. So he untaps. He has 6 spells. We could get Nimbus Djinned, but if he does that right now, and this is actually why I leave the Gnome Hollows, because if he spends his mana to go Summoning Sphere Nimbus Djinn, he's not playing units. So I will be just able to Lightning Bolt him for game. So if anything, I want to see the Lightning Bolt Nimbus Djinn come down. And he attacks my Vile Imp, or he attacks with Vile Imp, attacks my Pillar, goes to 10. I go to 10. And then he plays a Nimbus Djinn on himself. And so that was a good move because now, and a Violent. So now, yeah, I can't Lightning Bolt. And the Nimbus Djinn is out. My ruler is alive. And one thing that I would like to do is like move down to him and like Poison Nova, clear that out. But then I'm taking damage from intercepts And Lightning Bolt still isn't a guarantee because now I'm on the same site as him. So it's not as great as it seems. What is that? Third Call to War? Second Call to War? This is our second Pilgrim, so I think that's third Call to War. I moved back onto the Gnome Hollows because I don't want any Nimbus Djinn shenanigans. I can attack the Imp with Ruler, and then that lets my Pilgrim move, but the Druids could always kill it. I have 7 mana. I'm going to play the Vampire on the Pillar to sort of body block for the Pilgrim. This Vampire is going to be his personal security. Then we play the Call to War. We'll just get the third Pilgrim out of our deck. We would like to see a second Steed. Yeah, in this position, we're just not able to Poison Nova here. But I just need him to move these units. Or like next turn I would be able to Poison Nova and clear his, because I could move onto the ruins and then Poison Nova and Lightning Bolt. With that said, there really isn't much he could do to stop this. He's casting Earthquake. First he played it right there on my Free City and Gnome Hollows. But now he's thinking, because what he wants to do is put my Gnome Hollows in range of his smokestacks so that Nimbus Djinn can enter. Yeah, so he decides to reposition it right there, and he swaps my Gnome Hollows with the Step. So now Gnome Hollows is disabled, and he's able to come in with the Nimbus Djinn, attack me for 4, and then he just needs to discard 2 spells in order to door me. But from this position, Poison Nova Lightning Bolt just wins the game. And it's nice that he did that too, because now like the Dapple Vampire, now her like healing, it doesn't do anything. And at first I thought he was trying to suicide the Druids onto this bottomless pit, but then I realized that the smokestacks is turning it off. He's just gonna keep the Imp up or attack my Ruler and just, okay, he just wants the Imp in the cemetery as something to cast. He moved his Imp off of himself. I'm not sure that he really wants to do that. Especially because the turn before, he like was playing around Lightning Bolt, and then he does this, and it's like, oh, no, Lightning, you don't have Lightning Bolt. So I draw for turn. I do see Assorted Animals. That is a Phantom Steed. And then now he's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't feel safe. And I'm like, yeah, dude, no, yeah, you got it. Put the Imp back. And like, you know, Poison Nova clears it. And Lightning Bolt takes the game. So we beat 4-color Death Speaker. Good game, opponent. It was a fun one. He also had a Ruler of Thule. He wanted to bring the Mordric Druids on his own side. All right, so again, in game number 2 here, we're rolling the dice. Opponent gets a nat 20. I got a 12, so he's going to take the play here. We're up against an Enchantress player, which is nice because Enchantress is kind of slow. And this deck likes a slower game. We see the Alcazar that we were missing last game, and Assorted Animals will get us a Steed. So we're probably going to mulligan this Lightning Bolt in the Blink. And I like mulliganing the Crossroad because we have the main site that we're looking for. There's no need to dig. I'd like to see a defensive site that we can play in the front row. Aqueduct on turn 1 will be nice. We kind of need it to play the assorted animals. And we see the call to war to get us the Pilgrim. And we also just see a steed. So now we don't even need the animals. And Bottomless Pit is great because that's going to be our turn 2 site. So this hand, like this, you could not ask for a better hand right here. Enchantress is on the play. He's going to play Oasis and Amethyst Core. So he's mana ramping. It's going to go to us. Draw a site. We see a Tadpole Pool. That's pretty good because with the Aqueduct, we're going to have 3 water when we play the pool. Plus the Elementalist ability. Would have liked to maybe see a second defensive site though. Sending it to the opponent. They play a tower. That gives them 4 mana for the turn. And then on turn 2, we get Thunderstormed. So that is pretty crazy. I don't have a way to like shield myself from this damage. I could maybe on turn 3 offer my Phantom Steed, but I really don't want to do that. It's very likely that this is just going to be a 9 damage Thunderstorm. And we're just going to have to like power through it. Free City's great. We're going to play the Bottomless Pit. For 2 mana, we can call to war, grab a Pilgrim. And like this is just such a good hand because next turn we can play the Phantom Steed. And then on turn 4, we play the Pilgrim. We're going to play the Alcazar under the Steed. And we're just going to hit the races. Opponent's drawn a site for turn. Very crazy, considering they have only 1 spell in hand. And that's another reason why I'm more than happy to just take the damage on this Thunderstorm. And they can't animate the Thunderstorm how it is. Although this deck, its game plan, we will end up giving the Enchantress player good spots to animate auras later on. Normally, players like to keep the sites to their left and right void so that the Enchantress player can't animate Thunderstorm or whatever on top of you. We're going to play the Tadpole Pool. We're going to just boom frogs. And then we play the Steed to the left of it because next turn we're going to play the Alcazar right under the Steed. It's going to be on a corner, and then we play the Pilgrim. We're going to be drawing 3 cards next turn. Opponent plays his own Astral Alcazar. That is wild. In an Enchantress deck of all things. He could have the same idea. Then he plays a Vril Revenant. Now the Revenant is kind of scary. And is going to make me think for a minute. Because I could slow down my play. And I could put the free city over the Revenant and then just attack it with the city and kill it. If I go for the Alcazar Pilgrim play, that Revenant is going to hit me for a lot of damage. So, and I'm already at 11. Opponent has 4 mana already. With 5, he could hit me for 6. But I decide I'm doing this for the content. I want to show the cool combo. And I'm gonna take 6. So we play the Alcazar, we play the Pilgrim. We see a Poison Nova, no help right now. We can play the second Call to War, just get our Pilgrim. Obviously do your like searching and whatnot before you draw. Kind of just like thin the deck. At this point we want to see like Crater Eyes. Maybe Vampire would be good. And then we're gonna go up. That's 1 movement. Alcazar is 2. And then we hit this corner for 3. And now Phantom Steed's out of movement. But we get to draw 2 more cards from there. And now we see Crater Eyes. So now we're really cooking. We got to figure out how to put the opponent to 10 in order for Crater Eyes to lead us to victory here. Now, unfortunately, too, that we're on an Aqueduct. So when this Vril Revenant attacks, we won't be able to bury it. which means we might need to Poison Nova it, and that would kill my frogs, and I hate having to kill my frogs. He gets a tower, and that actually puts him at 6 mana, so he really pumps that Revenant and for 7 damage. And I have to take it, and I'm at 4 already. But 4 is a lot better than 3. Like, even though I'm really low, like, a Thunderstorm won't kill me. Lightning Bolt doesn't kill me. No, Fire Bolts, like, 4 is a much better number to be at than 3. I can work with this. Now we're going to play a second Bottomless Pit. It does open up, you know, Thunderstorm shenanigans. We're going to get this Steed going. He has to fly back to the Alcazar, and then he hits this last corner, and he has 1 movement left. But now that the opponent has an Alcazar, I can actually just move to it, and I get to attack with the Steed and the Pilgrim for 3 damage. And I get to draw 1 more card. And now that Pilgrim has completed his journey. And we have 5 mana. Could Poison Nova. Although what I'm thinking is, because I have the Bottomless Pits, the Revenant can only attack my Aqueduct or my Tadpole Pool. And if I just leave these Froggies up to block, I can probably attack it with the Apprentice Wizard next turn. So I'm going to play him. We see Mordric Druids. And we'll play them because we're taking a lot of damage from attacks. And feel pretty safe with the Druids, having the frogs around them as well. So now our opponent has to think. We've kind of stabilized. We have a big hand compared to them. We're even on mana. This Revenant, like, he did get a really big swing with it, but it can't do much else based on this board. It is resigned to dying to Apprentice Wizard next turn. He plays another tower. Looks like it's a duplicate tower, so it doesn't get any bonus mana. But then he attacks. I don't forget if he attacks my site or a frog, or he pumps it and then he attacks, and I block with a frog. I'll just be able to kill it with the wizard next turn. They'll trade, and that's fine. Passes back to me. I still have my Steed and my Pilgrim. I do want to get the Steed back to my Alcazar so that I can Pilgrim it up again with the second one. We see the third Call to War. So just absolutely drawing great this game. We take the trades. And I decide actually to cast the Assorted Animals. I'm going to just attack with these 2 for 3 more damage. Again, we got to put them to 10 somehow. And I have 6 mana, so it works nicely that I can Assorted Animals for 3 and then play the Steed for 3. And next turn, I'll be able to summon the Pilgrim on the Steed and just get drawn more cards. So there he goes. We're tapped. We got the Druids. We got frogs. We're passing. We're hanging on at 4. Opponent with another tower. 7 mana. And he's going to play a Nimbus Djinn. Pretty crazy stuff. He decides to discard a Mariner's Curse, trying to kill one of these 2. We're going to roll. He gets a 1. Did he? Okay, no, that was... He's rolling. He gets a 3, so that's going to kill my Pilgrim. And then I guess he was trying to kill the Steed because he then discards, I think that's a Tide Naiads. And the Steed dies. So he's got a Nimbus Djinn out. My first set of Pilgrim Steed are dead. We get a Gnome Hollows. That's great, especially that we see a Nimbus Djinn. So I actually play that near myself so that I can maybe enter it on a later turn. We're going to totally play this Pilgrim on the Steed. But first, we'll do the final Call to War before we draw any more. And Call to War is 2. Pilgrim is 2. That'll leave us with 3 mana. This Nimbus Djinn is looking like an easy berry target. And we're going to hit the top corner first. Go back to the Alcazar, and then we're going to hit our corner. The reason we do that instead of the top right corner like we did the first time is now the opponent has a site adjacent to that corner, and if he were to play a site underneath my guys, they could be vulnerable to something that he may have. So keeping them in this corner, they are just extra safe. There's going to be no site shenanigans into killing them. Unless he had a cornerstone, which would be absolutely crazy. He's at 14. We have 6 spells in hand. We're looking at double Poison Nova, double Crater Eyes. He plays a Ghost Ship, so this is like an Enchantress Spirits deck, which is like pretty cool, I gotta admit. And I'm gonna draw a site for turn. We see Floodplain. Now we only need to play one more site in order to Crater Eyes, so that is why we draw a site. We're gonna probably play this Floodplain over the Ghost Ship to stop it from triggering. And then the Druids, I suppose, could cast Poison Nova. Alright, so we go Alcazar, corner, and then we attack this tower. We can't attack the Alcazar. Actually, we could because Ghost Ship is not in the Void anymore. But I believe Ghost Ship would be able to like defend the Alcazar from anywhere. And that's kind of interesting. So we put him down to 11. If only I could get one more damage here. Trying to think if there's any way to get the additional damage. No. We're submerging the frogs. The Druids are going to cast Poison Nova to kill the Ghost Ship. And that will just be the turn. Next turn, we should have an easy time putting them to 10. We have the Steed and the Pilgrim. It's worth noting, too, at the end of your turn, you should always drop the Pilgrim with the Steed and pick it up at the start of your turn. Because if they have a berry and they bury the Steed, it buries everything it carries, and they get a 2-for-1. But if you just say, hey, the Steed drops the Pilgrim at the end of your turn, now one berry will not kill both of them. Little pro tip right there. He plays a color out of space, and then he goes Ultimate Horror, so he's going to get to bring back his Void Walkers, and in fact, we have a Phantom Steed in our cemetery. So boom, he's got the Ghost Ship, the Vril Revenant, and the Phantom Steed. Revenant in front of himself, Ghost Ship in front of the Horror. Horror and Steed are in position of my Pilgrim and Steed. And the Steed is actually a big problem because the other guys I would normally be able to like attack around with Phantom Steed. But because his Steed is on my Steed's site, he can just follow anywhere to defend. And I really need to put him to 10. I was really counting on the Steed Pilgrim to get another attack in. So that's his Steed. I'm kind of looking for mine right now. I'm like, yo, this site is so packed. All right, we got him. But what I can do, right, is I can pick up the Pilgrim, and have the Steed move and attack the Astral Alcazar. And at that point, the only unit who could move to defend would be his Steed. They would both trade, but my Pilgrim follows, right? My Pilgrim is riding the Steed. And so after the Steeds trade, Pilgrim gets to attack for 1. And he's thinking about it, whether he wants to even defend or not. Kind of letting him know, like, the only unit who can defend here is the Steed. And he takes the trade. And now my Pilgrim, there's no able blockers, so he has to take the damage there. And then 8 mana, I'm going to discard Floodplain. I'm going to Craterize. It's going to kill my Pilgrim. It's going to kill his Ultimate Horror and the Vril Revenant. The Ghost Ship survives with 1 HP. But we put him to door. We cleared his board, kind of. All that's left is a Ghost Ship. We have another, like, we have a Lightning Bolt for game. We also have another Craterize. And now it's his turn. He's got to think about what he wants to do. He plays Nimbus Djinn. He's going to move Ghost Ship into the Void. Tap for a sight. He's only got 2 more mana. It's our turn, and, like, that's going to be game, right? Draw a spell. It doesn't really matter. We have the Lightning Bolt. And we got there. Good game.